Hey everyone, welcome back to Miles Beyond the Page. I'm Michelle Miles, and I'm so glad you're here. This is the place where writers at every stage come together and talk about the craft, the journey, and everything that makes the writing life so unforgettable. Pour yourself a cozy beverage, get comfortable, and join me as we explore the stories behind the stories. Today, I'm really excited to host Lexi Blake. Hi, Lexi.
Oh, thanks for having
Hi.
me.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. New York Times bestselling author Lexi Blake lives in North Texas with her husband and three kids. Since starting her publishing journey in 2010, she's sold over 3 million copies of her books. She began writing at a young age, concentrating on plays and journalism. And it wasn't until she started writing romance that she found success. She likes to find humor in the strangest places and believes in happy endings. Yay!
Wouldn't be a romance novelist if I didn't.
That's right. Absolutely. So I love talking to romance authors because it's also my genre. But today we're going to talk about your latest book, Built to Last, which released in May. And it's the third book in the Park Avenue Promise series about three best friends rising to the top of their male dominated industries. I really like this concept. So, as someone who also works in male dominated industries, I really love this. Can you tell us what inspired you to write it?
I think it was a couple of different things. I was trying to come up with the concept of what I wanted to do. And I know I wanted to do the, kind of three sisters thing. But I also looked around and I'm in publishing, which is kind of, look, romance feels technically like it's female dominated, but we all know that anyone really high up is probably male.
Mhm.
Even in a female dominated industry, we still have to deal with some of the stereotypes and standards that come from not being male in a powerful place. A lot of times, romance authors end up, well, not just romance authors, but any author, any woman, we end up having our ambition called arrogance.
Mhm.
And so I really kind of wanted to take that and put it into these three women. And I think the city of New York really did it too. I was in New York when we kind of came up with the concept for it because I had been talking with the publishers at Blue Box Press, and we knew we wanted to do something like this. And so it kind of came out of that.
That's awesome. I love this. And so this is a trilogy, right? Are you planning more?
Yes.
Just-
No, that
so-
was three. Yes.
okay, so talk to us a little bit about the first. Well, can you talk to us about the whole trilogy first of all, and then specifically about Built to Last, and then we'll talk about the other two books.
It takes basically three industries: tech, which I had a little, the first book's a little, is it's set kind of in a tech world. It's called Start Us Up. I actually have a little bit of knowledge from my husband working in startups, how hard it is, how cutthroat it can be, how you can be at the top of the mountain 1 minute and at the bottom of the hill 2 seconds later without ever realizing that it's happening. So I wanted to put one of the first heroine in kind of that situation and see what happened. The second is, I mean, it's a really fun. It's my take on like what happens if in the Bachelor, like
Mhm.
she is an assistant, a production assistant who ends up getting kind of tossed in because one of the other girls they need a specific amount of girls. One of the girls gets called away because she can play a corpse on Law and Order, which is the best of all the corpses. And so my second heroine ends up there, and then the third is in construction, which is also heavily dominated, and I loved the idea of doing, like, Love It or List It, kind of,
Mhm.
but with a Gilded Age house, and he's the designer and she's the construction,
Oh, I love
and
that.
so that's kind of where that came from, and Built to Last is very, very enemies to lovers. They spark off each other really hard at the beginning, and there's a lot of misunderstanding between them, but they're both actually coming from roughly the same place.
I love enemy. I think a lot of people love enemies to lovers
Yeah,
too.
it's
So
so fun.
yeah,
Yes, it's so much fun to write. Who doesn't love that kind of banter? And you
yeah.
don't get that if there's not just a little bit of hate in there.
You're right. Right. I love it. I love it. So did you pick your tropes before you wrote the series, or did you they just kind of grow out of that?
think they just kind of come organically in a lot of ways. I mean, sometimes it's very, very obvious because maybe you've set, as a writer, maybe I've set up a character where they're childhood friends. So I know that's going to be a friends to lovers situation. I
Mhm.
knew I wanted to do enemies to lovers and built to last. I kind of, I would say that the first one is very kind of grumpy sunshine. He's the sunshine. He just turned out to be a very, when I started writing him, a very golden retriever kind of hero. But
Mhm.
that's, at the end of the day, that's what she needed.
Mhm.
And then the second one, it's set, it's called My Royal Showman. So obviously it's going to be royalty. And
Yeah. I think the Grumpy Sunshine is really popular right now too.
Grumpy Sunshine is so much fun. I actually call Built to Last Grumpy and Grumpier because they're both just horrific grumps most of the time. But I love, yeah, it's kind of two of my favorites, Grumpy Sunshine and Enemies to Lovers.
I love it. So you've been publishing since 2010. I think I've known you about that long too.
Yep. Yep. Pretty much a
uh,
couple months after. Yeah, I met
yeah.
you.
Yeah. So let's talk about your writing journey. And you have an extensive backlist. So anyone who doesn't know you, can you kind of give us the highlights of your backlist and what inspired you to start writing?
Yeah, I've been writing since I was a kid. It was just always in my head. I always told stories. I like to say I wrote fan fiction before fan fiction was a thing because
Hmm.
I remember distinctly as a teenager writing my romances with various members of Duran Duran in notebooks. Very detailed too. I was obviously always going to be a romance novelist. And Doctor Who fan fiction, strangely enough. Duran Duran and Doctor Who. I wrote plays in the beginning. I think because I was a theater kid, so I wrote a lot of plays. I thought about going into journalism, but then realized that I couldn't just make things up. And that's less fun. It's less fun talking to people and not being able to just talk to the people in your head.
Yeah.
Um, so I ended up getting married, and for a long time I tried to write. I wrote 3 books over the course of about 10 years. None of them hit. I ended up writing my whole urban fantasy series in like a year after my last daughter was born. And my husband was like, "You need to figure out how to make this a career because you're spending all your time here." And so the urban fantasy wasn't, I had been querying and trying to get that going. And so I decided, I want to be in this sphere. What's selling right now?
Hmm.
The ebook revolution had started, and we had a lot of small press that we don't have today. We had a lot of opportunity in small press in the early 2010 to about 2015. And so I found a publisher. I saw what they wanted, and I wrote a book called Small Town Siren. And that's kind of how I got started.
Yeah, that's great. I remember, and that just it just went off from there.
Yeah. And somebody was like, "You're an overnight success." I'm like, "Yes, 15 years of rejection."
Yeah. I love that people call it overnight success when we are out here slaving away behind a
Yes,
keyboard.
like, maybe that happens to like, maybe that happens to 2 people.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're the 16-year-old Sarah Moss who can write, Throne of Glass,
Yeah.
but the rest of us, it's like decades of of
Yeah.
of dedicating yourself to this for somebody to
Right.
say like, "Oh, that was easy for you." No.
It's not easy. So, of all the series that you've written, which is your favorite?
My favorite is my urban fantasy series.
Yeah.
It's called Thieves. It is not my biggest series. It's not how I eat in any
Yeah.
way. But I think it's my favorite because it's everything that I love about storytelling, and it happened at a time in my life that changed me. And so I think that that change and that energy I got from that experience went into the book
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
and the series. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think we all have our favorites that just don't sell well.
Yeah, yes. And we just, I'm lucky that I get to keep writing about one every year, year and a half. But
Mhm.
I wish
Yeah.
it's that one, it's that baby that you just wish, we're walking faster.
Exactly. So so your writing process, what does a typical writing routine look like for you? And are you a plotter or a pantser?
Like to say I'm a plotster.
Yeah.
I'm kind of somewhere in between. I usually know how I want to open the book and how roughly the first third of the book's going to go. And I usually know how I want the book to end. It's
Mhm.
that middle. It's about the 60% in the middle that I kind of feel my way through. So usually that first third will go exactly how I want it to go. Sometimes the end will change. I mean, the actual like happily ever after ending doesn't change, but
Mhm.
how we get there, what forces now shape the world, sometimes that changes and sometimes it can change radically. I will often have, I think a lot of us do, I will have a scene in my head that's the whole reason I want to write the book.
Mhm.
That's like it is the grounding for the whole book. And I get to it and realize it doesn't work. And that
I
is when we kill our darlings and
yeah.
come up with something else. My actual daily writing process, I found this really great. I worked for probably 10 years completely solitary. And then a couple of my friends, anybody who follows me anywhere knows I'm really good friends with Mary Carr and Lila Dubois. They had been working together over Zoom. And I'm like, I hate Zoom. I don't want to go on Zoom anymore. Like after 2020, no more Zoom. And they convinced me to come on. And I suddenly found that when I worked with other people, I worked better, I was more focused, and I worked faster. So I went from getting on the computer at 8 a.m., writing a couple of words, going to Facebook, writing a couple of words, doing something else, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and being frustrated. I'm now on from 11 to probably 2, maybe 2:30, and
Mhm.
I get all my word count done, and I'm pretty happy.
Wow, that's incredible. I love it. Yeah, I find it hard to stay motivated sometimes too, especially with the internet and distracting us.
So much distraction.
Yeah. So you just talked about how you stay motivated, but when a project gets really tough, what do you have any tips or tricks that you do to kind of push through that?
For me, I think it's kind of this is where everybody thinks that writing is this beautiful, inspired thing, and the muse comes down and sprinkles little pixie dust on our head, and we just write along. In reality, it's a lot of staring at a screen, going, "What is next? Why
Yes.
isn't this working?" It's a lot of it takes a lot of discipline. And Octavia Butler has this great quote, and I'm going to screw it up, but it's like like writing is 10% inspiration and 90% determination and
Yeah.
discipline. And I think that's kind of where we are. When I get stuck, I just have to kind of figure out what's gone wrong.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear it's not just me.
Oh no, I think it's all of us. I think
Yeah.
that we love to romanticize this process.
Yeah.
Either way, either we're sitting in beautiful homes typing it all, or we're Joan Wilder crying. And
Yeah.
but the truth of the matter is, mostly if you could put a zoom on, it's just going,
Yeah. Going, I don't know what happens next.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I have no idea what happens.
It's so funny because last night I'm sitting here trying to work on my work in progress going, I don't know what happens next. I don't know. I'll figure it
So
out maybe.
I was having breakfast with my best friend today, and I was telling her, wouldn't it be fun if I did this at the end of the book? And it leaves this huge question. It's like, well, what happens? Like, what really happened? I'm like, no idea. Won't it be fun to find out? It's
I
like, you
love it.
say that now, but when you were writing the book and you're yelling at me, why did you let me do this? Here we go.
Yes. So do you have any favorite tools or techniques for writing or writing getting through writer's block?
Right. I think what I figured out is that writer's block is usually I love starting projects. Starting projects is my favorite time. I love just laying all the groundwork out. I usually fly through about the first 20% of a book. And then the slowdown comes, and I think every writer has this point in the book where, and it's different percentage wise for all of us, where we're like, this is the worst book I've ever written.
Yes. Oh my
This
god,
is
yes.
this is the end of my career. Mine is about 20, 25%. And then I get to about, 75%. I'm like, this is not so bad. But usually when I'm blocked, and I'm using air quotes on that, it's because I've left something out. I am an
Mhm.
incredibly linear writer. I am not the writer who can just pick and choose the scene I want to write today. I have to experience it with the characters in some
Mhm.
ways.
Mhm.
So if I'm blocked and I can't go forward, I have left something out. And
Yeah.
that's usually where I have to go back and like this character development this is not enough character development for me to be
Mhm.
in this place.
Yeah, and I've done this too. I'm halfway through the book, I'm like, "This is terrible. This sucks." I'm gonna throw this away, but I keep
Yeah.
going.
But my tip is when I get that way, I usually get in the car. For some reason, getting in the car, blasting some music,
Mm,
and just driving and letting it's almost like meditation for me. It kind of lets my brain slow down a little bit and just let
yeah.
things flow in and out until it catches on it.
Yeah, I think we all have to find that space too, where you can just like stop thinking about it long enough to
Yes.
have that epiphany. And I've done that too. So we're writing publishing insights. You've been writing for a while now. You've been an indie author. You write for publishers. But what do you find is the most challenging about publishing?
Today is that it changes every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that it's really interesting that, like, since the printing press, publishing didn't change for like hundreds of years. It was always done the same way. Everything was the same. And then we hit the internet revolution, and we hit the ebook
Hmm.
revolution, and suddenly all these doors come open, which is wonderful and magnificent. I don't have a career if those doors don't come open, and I'm thrilled that it's there. But what it led to is it's chaotic, man. It can be a chaotic mess out there. You've got traditional publishing, which used to like to almost pick what happens next.
Hmm.
Now they follow TikTok,
Mm.
and like 5 years ago, you were supposed to be on Facebook, and now it's Instagram and TikTok. And just as an author who grew up watching movies where, the author just wrote some words and was given chats and didn't have to do anything else except maybe go to save her sister in Colombia and get lost in the forest. Like, that's all we had
Right.
to do.
Right.
The reality of it is very different, and it's not like traditional authors. Are a traditional author, you are still going to have to market your book.
Yes.
Unless you are the tippy toppiest of all time, you're going to have to put a lot of effort into marketing your book. You're going to have to do your own admin. You are an entire business unto yourself. And I think a lot of people understand how involved it can be.
Yeah, I think that's a very eye-opening experience when you start self-publishing and you realize that you are everything. You're your whole department. And then if you set up an LLC, you're like, "Oh, well, I'm the accounting person and the payroll person." Yeah. It's definitely a new world but there's so many opportunities now, I think, for authors too these days. So, what does it take, do you think, for an author to hit a major best-selling list?
Like the rest of publishing, that changes week by week.
Yeah.
I wish I could be like this. I'm a person who's hit the times before. I hit the times when they had the E-list, which was really a pretty pure list. It was how many books did you sell on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, whoever reported at the time.
Mhm.
So I hit that several times. I've hit USA Today when it was how many books did you sell? That is not the case today, and I think a lot of authors come in not understanding that these are very, very curated lists.
Yeah.
And I don't wanna ever maybe everybody understands this, but I don't wanna talk down, but if you don't understand what a curated list is, it means that there are factors that weigh beyond pure sales.
Mhm.
So the New York Times, they won't lie about it. I mean, they don't put it out there, but they won't lie about it. It's a curated list. It's about what books they believe their readers will enjoy. Well, I've
Yeah.
gotten that explanation from them. They they weigh physical books more heavily than ebooks. They weigh it where you buy the book more heavily. If you buy the book from Amazon, it weighs less than if you buy the book from an independent bookseller.
Mm. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
now USA Today, which used to be a pure sales list, including ebooks, no longer includes any ebooks. It's
Yeah.
physical sales of books. So what you're going to see now, what you used to see was a ton of self-published indie romance authors on this list. We
Mhm.
we would be half the list.
Yeah.
What you see now is the only trad published romance authors hit it.
Yeah. It's
So
it's
it's
tough.
it's disheartening.
Yeah.
But once you let go of that, because I'm going to tell you another truth. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Not hitting a list, it doesn't matter. And it's easy for me to say it because I've already got the initials. but hitting a list and not hitting a list really didn't affect my sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good advice too. I think we just can't really worry about that either.
It was a relief. I mean, a weird kind of relief when I didn't have to sit there every Wednesday after the book came out going, is it gonna happen? Am I gonna hit
Yeah.
it? Waiting for somebody to call me. And now I measure it by, how much the readers love it, how much it actually sold. Am I happy with it?
Yeah, and that was one of my questions is how you define success as an author. But that's a
That
broad
should be the
question.
first question that you go into. And I think that, I think you define it differently in different perks in different times of
Yeah.
your writing career. At one point in time, I would have defined success by hitting the New York Times.
Yeah.
I would have defined success by having a movie deal. I'm at a stage this many, over 100 books, 15 years in. I'm at a stage where, am I happy? Am I comfortable? Am I living a life that I want to live and being able to fuel it with my own creativity? That's successful to me.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's important too. Everybody defines it differently, but I love that in that you have to be really happy about what you're writing too.
You do.
so
It
so
has
now
to,
talk
it has to feed your soul.
yes, agree. I agree. I think you have to be passionate about it too. The readers will be
They
able to
will, they
tell.
will know.
Yeah, they can sniff that out. So marketing and building a reader base is probably one of the hardest things for authors these days. And you've been doing it for a while now. You've What sort of marketing strategies have you found to be the most effective in building a readership?
I came in and I always like to put the console on that. I came in at a time when it was a lot easier to build a base. I think that the people who are starting now, it's a lot harder. I think you have to define where you're writing. And this is me talking specifically to indie authors, because if you're tried, you're going to get some help
Mhm.
and you're going to have, but if you're starting out and you're an indie author and you're coming from absolutely nowhere, you have to decide if you're going to be KU or if you're going to be wide, because those marketing strategies are going to be very different.
Yes.
In KU, I think, and Kindle Unlimited, I think you have to advertise.
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's very, very necessary for you to advertise on site where those readers are reading. Because I think the KU reader is very different than the person who just buys their books and is wide over here. The KU reader is dedicated to KU. So you have to get your book in front of them.
Mhm.
I think when you're wide, I think that the best marketing you could do, obviously you want to run some book club. When you get enough of a series going, you might think about making the first one free to maybe see if they'll buy through the rest. You might do some ads on that. Other than that, I don't know that advertising spending. I have spent an enormous amount on advertising and I've spent no amount on advertising in the same series, and the book's sold the same.
Mm.
I think the best marketing you can do, especially in the beginning, is with other authors.
Oh yeah.
Find other authors, build your newsletter list,
Yes.
market with other authors. Nobody in there are other genres where it is a zero-sum game. Like if you write thrillers, some there's some research that shows that thriller readers read 2 books a year. That is not the case with romance readers.
No,
They are
it's not.
always looking for something else. There is no author who can fulfill the romance reader fully. So you find your group, you find people who write similarly to you, have some similar like writing values as you, and market together.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, if you're an indie author, book club is not book club, book funnel is a great way to leverage
Yes,
that.
book funnel is
Um,
great.
yeah, I love book funnel and the people of book funnel are fantastic.
Yeah.
They really are. So talking about social media, how important do you think it is for social media for authors to be on it and visible today?
It's very important and it's not.
Yes.
This is another one of those things where it's almost in some ways, social media is going to connect you to fans. It's going to connect you to people. It obviously sells books in some cases,
Mhm.
but I kind of like the lottery. Like if you're not on, you can't play. Do you know
Mm.
what I'm saying? Like
Mhm,
like
mhm.
like you get the right book blogger, the right book talker, the right bookstagrammer, and suddenly your book gets picked up. But that's lightning in a bottle. The
Yeah.
real value of I mean, that would be the real value of social media if you hit it. If you don't, the real value of social media is connecting to fans, connecting to other authors. It's kind of it's talking about your work, putting yourself out there.
Yeah, great advice, too, and it's really hard to do that too, to put yourself out there when
Oh,
we're all mostly introverts.
yeah. And especially for us, for Xers and up, like this is we did not put things on camera.
Right.
Like that was like a no-no. These things happen in the woods and we don't talk about that. And I see our, millennial and Z's who are like talking about their whole lives online
Yes.
and very open, and it's very healthy and lovely for them to do. But the extra in me is like, Sue,
Yeah.
like, uh, like no.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm like, "Wow, I can't believe you put that on Facebook."
I'm telling you, we should have this like group of little crusty old extras. You're over here, like we got our beer.
Yeah. "Get off my lawn."
That's right. That we have become that. We have
Yes.
absolutely become that.
So, do you have any, tips or tricks, for building a loyal readership and keeping them engaged?
I think the most important thing is to be consistent. Be consistent with your brand. And I'm not saying that you can't write multiple genres. Like write multiple genres. Do you write the stuff you want to write, but be consistent about it.
Yeah.
Don't drop series. Even like be patient with your series. If you are going to write this 5-book series and you get to book 2 and it didn't sell the way you wanted it to and you drop it, all you are doing is teaching, especially if you're indie and you like, I don't want to tell you, it sounds very privileged to say keep going when you're trying to feed yourself,
Yeah.
but then maybe make it a 3 books first. Don't drop series. That really upsets fans and it kind of trains them not to trust you.
Ah,
Cons- Consistency is things like I know my biggest series is a series called Masters and Mercenaries. I've been writing it since 2011. I am still writing that series and it is still my bread and butter. I put out a book in September. I put out a book in March. I've been doing it for 15 years. They know when it's going to happen. So I think consistent releases and just kind of not muddling things up. Like you have to be true to the genre. You can do a lot of things. Like if you're writing romantasy, that's not the same as writing contemporary romance. You're writing romantasy, kill some people off. Like do it. You don't want to kill off your main characters because we still got the rom in set in front of Annecy, but the urban fantasy, you can be a little more brutal,
yes.
but you have to know your subgenres, and give them what they want while you're also giving them, basically opening up this piece of you and showing it to the world.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice. And so you think romance readers, and I think I know the answer to this, but romance readers are really looking for series, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what
I
they
mean, I
want.
know that of- if you put out like, do you like standalones or series? They're like, how did I get that? They'll take the standalone and go, when is you have this character on page 4 who ordered a coffee? When am I getting her story? Like they are voracious and they love to live in these worlds.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about romance that I think fantasy and science fiction are really considered the big world building genres.
Yes.
I think romance is in there too. We just build them oftentimes in a contemporary setting,
Hmm.
but we build them.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice too. And I know readers love series. And I think when you have a long series, they're really invested in that too.
Now,
So,
sometimes they look and they go, "This is 40 books in this series." No,
yeah.
but that's why you split the series up. You split it up into smaller bites so that you've got these little on ramps that you can
Yes.
come into. I tend to like writing in 5-book series that the arc for some reason just works for me,
Yeah.
but they're all interconnected.
I love that. So you kind of do like what a spin-off series of the series.
Yes. I read too many comic books as a kid and watched too much, sci-fi TV. So everything is connected.
I love it. I'm the same way. So we're getting close to running out of time, but I want to ask you some advice for aspiring authors Do you have any piece of advice you wish you'd known earlier?
Well, this is also life advice. If you are going into this, the one thing that you need to remember to do is to run your own race. I think we all too often, with comparison is the thief of joy every single time. All too often, we contribute like other factors to like our friends who we've written with for years just got hit with the TikTok and now she's up here and that doesn't say anything about your writing. It just means that you're at a different stage and that's okay. Run your race, put your blinders on. And when I say blinders, not like know what's going on around you, but don't worry about somebody else's success or not success.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really important. I think the development of a thick skin
Hmm.
is really important because what you take personally in your first couple of books, it runs off you after book 20.
Yeah.
If you're lucky,
Yeah.
because you can't take that level of criticism, just you can't
Mhm.
take that like to heart.
Right. Definitely need a thick skin in this business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And determination because
Yes.
it's up and down. I having been in the industry for long enough now, I see these writers who are at like the tippy feel like they're at the tip top. And I want to tell them, preserve your money because the wave you're writing is going to do this.
Yeah.
Like the trope is going to change, the genre is going to change. I came in on a wave of 50 Shades. And I rode that for a really long time and it was great. And I'm lucky that I have a husband who was like, but this money is not going to last forever. You need to make a sustainable career. And that means, saving when you've got lots of money. So when the money isn't as good, it's still there and you can still write.
Good advice too. Good business advice. If you're looking at this as a business, and we should, if we're going to be doing this for
Yeah.
the
If
long
it's your
haul.
full time job, if
Yeah.
it's not and it's art, that, more power to you. That's great too.
Yeah. So, do you want to do some fun rapid fire questions?
Sure.
All right. What's your favorite writing snack?
Ew, oh, almonds. These are Valencia, but I usually like Marcona.
All right. Nice. Nice. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm an early bird. I like to write. I prefer to write much more during the day. My brain doesn't work after 5 o'clock. It's out.
It's
It's
done.
yeah.
One book you wish you'd written.
Oh, that's a good one. A book I wish I'd written. Oh, see, now I'm not going to remember it, but we're going back to Throne of Glass. Probably it's the one where the 13. We have I don't know if you've read it. It might Empire Storms. I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I've read
Yeah.
all of them, but like probably I think it might be the last book in Throne of Glass. I wish I'd written that.
That was a great book.
It's God, Manon and that full
Loved it.
thread with the 13 is one of my favorite stories of all time.
Yeah. It's a great series, too. And your favorite fictional villain?
Oh, is he a villain if I really like him? I mean, he was a villain and then he wasn't a villain. And then he was like a redeemed villain, but he starts out as a villain. And I liked him as a villain. I'm going to say Spike from Buffy.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a ton of fun. I really appreciate you doing it.
Thank you. It was so good to see you.
It was nice to see you. So, thanks so much to Lexi Blake for being here. And thanks to you all for tuning in. Don't miss her book, Built to Last. All her links will be available in the show notes, so be sure to check them out. If you enjoyed this episode, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Catch Miles Beyond the Page on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeart. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep writing, and I'll see you miles beyond the page. Lexi and I were having so much fun, I forgot to ask her where to find her books online. Lexi can be found at her website, lexiblake.net, and on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, Pinterest, and TikTok. Find her books at Amazon, Apple Books, Google Play, Kobo, Nook, and at her store. All these links will be available in the show description, so be sure to check them out and her latest book, Built to Last. Thanks for joining me on Miles Beyond the Page. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. If you're an author and want to be a guest, visit michellemiles.net/podcast to apply. Keep writing, keep dreaming, and I'll see you next time.